I'm Bob Campbell, a member of the Knoxville Bar Association, and this interview today is done on the Legal History Project of the Knoxville Bar Association, where we're interviewing and recording the careers of lawyers who have been practicing here for many, many years. And today I'm going to be interviewing Bill Davis of the firm of Edgerton, McAfee, Armstead, and Davis. All right, would you state your name, please, sir?
William W. Davis.
And where is your office where we're having this interview?
It's on in Knoxville in the Riverside Tower, 14th floor.
Okay. And you're with the firm of Edgerton, McAfee, Armstead, and Davis.
I'm the last one on the totem pole.
All right. But you've been there a while.
Right.
And I'm going to call you Bill.
Right. That's.
Bill, when and where were you born?
I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, August the 23rd, 1921. Just had a birthday last week.
And if my mathematics is correct, that means you're 93 years old.
That's right.
And give us a little bit of a short summary of your early years. Obviously, you and your family lived in Charlotte back then. And did your early years through elementary school and high school, was that in Charlotte, or did your family move?
No, when I was 6 years old, my family moved from Charlotte to Bluefield, West Virginia, where my grandfather had a sign business. And I went to elementary school and high school in Bluefield, West Virginia, and ended up in West Virginia University for college, and went there for 2 years.
Let me interrupt you there. How was West Virginia? What town in West Virginia is?
It's in Morgantown.
Morgantown. How far from Bluefield is that?
It's about 400 miles.
Oh, so it's a long ways then.
It's opposite end of the state.
Okay. And you say you were at West Virginia for 2 years.
Right.
And what was your major when you started in college?
Just a general AB.
Okay.
No.
And then
I did major in accounting.
Okay. And then after those 2 years, did you change schools, or?
Yes. My family, my mother and father, Dad was transferred from Bluefield to a little town near New Orleans, Louisiana. Mm-hmm. And I was able to get admitted to LSU. Mm-hmm. And it was very important there that I go to a place where they had ROTC because the war was coming on.
Okay.
And it was important that I be in ROTC.
Now, what business was your father in?
He was in accounting.
In accounting, okay. And so you unlike our modern kids, you didn't sit down and say, "Well, I want to go to college here, go to college here." You just went where you were convenient, didn't you?
That's right.
Okay. And did you get your bachelor's degree at LSU?
That's where I got that at LSU. And the war was on then. Mm-hmm. And I graduated and also finished my ROTC. Mm-hmm. And so I went into the Army from LSU in 1942.
1942. And where did you serve?
Well, I started out, Bob, in the 14th Armored Division. I was stationed in Camp Chaffee, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I transferred from there into the Air Force. Mm-hmm. And was able to go through flight training in mm-hmm. Texas. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And finished that and learned how to drive an airplane.
An airplane driver. And did you, just out of curiosity, did you continue your piloting abilities after the war, or is that something you gave
Well,
up?
I maintained a license for several years,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
flying a little Cessna,
Yeah.
but that ran out.
Okay. And where did you serve, Bill, during the time you were in military service?
I like to say I fought the Battle of Texas.
Okay.
I went through flight training and was a first lieutenant, and then I was an instructor in Texas teaching other people how to fly.
Okay.
And I did that for most of the war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So at that stage in your educational career, you had a bachelor's degree
Mm-hmm.
with a major in accounting,
Mm-hmm.
and you, of course, were in the military. When the war was over, and you went back into civilian life, then what did you do?
Well, I forgot to tell you that I had 1 year at LSU, was in law school.
Mm-hmm.
Back then you could go 3 years of free law and then go into law school
Okay.
and get your degree at the end of your first year. So when I was in the military, I had a degree 1 year in law school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applied for admission to Harvard Law School,
Mm-hmm.
and I somehow was admitted. And when the war was over, Nell and I, we'd been married while I was in the service. We were married on October 15th, 1943.
And let me interrupt you on that. And did you meet your wife when you were on military duty?
No, she lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and went to LSU, and we met at LSU.
Okay. Okay.
And went to school together.
And
But anyway, we were married, and when I got out of the service, at that time I was stationed near St. Louis, Missouri, and that's where I was discharged.
mm-hmm.
And came back to Bluefield, where my parents were living, on our way to Boston to go to Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad said, well, why don't you go over and talk to the people at UT Law School? And I went over and talked to Dean Wicker, and lo and behold, I started school the next day at UT.
You never got to Boston.
Never got to Boston.
Well, I'd
Best
say
thing that ever happened to me.
I'd say
I'm very grateful.
I'd say that's right. Had you had any contact or relationship with lawyers? Was there any reason that you, other than getting a further education, why you went to law school as opposed to some other graduate school?
No, all the way through high school, I'd been interested in forensics and public speaking. And when I was in college at West Virginia, we had debating teams, and traveled around, kind of got in to my blood and thought it'd be an interesting profession to pursue.
Okay, and you talked to Dean Wicker, who was dean of the law school at that time, and what year was it that you started law school, if you can remember?
It must have been about 1945.
Okay.
See, I just had 1 more year to go.
And 1 more year to go. Okay, and
No, I had 2 years to go.
yeah.
I
Okay.
had 1 year already.
Now you've told us about your wife, and you've had 5 children?
Right.
And of those 5 children, how many of them were lawyers?
Well, I had 3 lawyers out of the 5.
Okay.
And 1 boy and 1 daughter did not go to law school.
Okay. Okay. And did you encourage your children to go to law school, or did they just attracted to it because of their daddy?
I think the latter is probably true.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want them to make up their minds.
Okay. All right. Now, when did you graduate from law school? Oh, you told me about 1945. You say, okay. And
It's 46.
It's 46. Okay. And tell us a little bit about your law school career. I'm assuming that the UT Law School was nowhere near as large as it is now as far as the enrollment is concerned. But you mentioned Dean Wicker. Were there any other professors there that kind of stick in your mind? As
Harold Warner was
Harold
I guess
Warner.
the
Okay.
main one that I
Yeah.
appreciated so much.
Do you remember what Harold Warner taught? What subjects he taught?
I believe it's real estate law.
Okay, that's right. And in your law school time, I understand that you had a successful law school career.
Well, I was editor-in-chief of the Law Review
Okay.
and was inducted into the Order of the Coif, ODK, and Phi Kappa Phi.
Okay. And then you graduated in 1946,
Right.
and that's when you joined you went into the practice now.
Right.
How did you go about finding a place to practice?
Dean Wicker recommended that I apply to Mount Edgerton at Edgerton McAfee, and I did, and I was employed and started out there in 1946.
So you didn't have any trouble finding a job then, did you?
You know, they were looking for lawyers there.
Yeah, I guess that's right. That's right after the war.
Right.
And when you joined the Edgerton firm, how many lawyers did you have in the firm?
And when I came in, there were 3 lawyers: Mount Edgerton, Joe McAfee, and John Armistead. I made the 4th one.
Okay.
And today it's grown to 21 lawyers.
21 lawyers. Okay.
And I'm very, very proud to have a part of that.
Well, you were here. When you joined the firm, it then became Edgerton, McAfee, Armstead, and Davis.
Right.
And that's what it is today.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I'm the only one of the original ones still around.
You're surviving. Okay.
By the grace of God.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But we have some, I think, outstanding lawyers now. Steve McSween I was president for many years. He's now the president of the law firm.
Oh, is he?
And he does a good job. We have other such outstanding lawyers with Joe McAfee, Joe Mont in general business law, and Jonathan Reed, probably the best estate planning and trust and wills lawyer around here, and others.
Okay.
And so I'm very proud to be a part of this law firm that's gone on for nearly 80 years.
Well, you should be.
Since it started.
You should be. When did you take the bar exam, Bill?
1946.
Okay. And you took it here in Knoxville?
Right.
Okay. Back when you started practicing in 1946, in those early years, what was your hourly rate of you charge your clients?
I can't remember for sure, but if it's $15 or $20, it's
Okay.
pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Okay. As you continued into your practice, when you were hired just because you were an available lawyer, or were you hired because you had some education, specialty in your education, and some desire to do certain things in the practice of law?
Mont Edgerton hired me, and he just needed someone to help him in his specialty, which is corporate and business
Okay.
mergers, acquisitions, and that sort of thing. And based on my record in law school, he thought I might be teachable.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
he was my mentor, and certainly I owe everything to him.
And generally speaking, did you continue in that broad specialty throughout your career?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. And who would be some of your primary clients during your career? And we can talk in more detail about some of them later. But
okay, but typical transactions that I worked with included initial public offerings for Camel Manufacturing Company and Coal Drug Company, and the merger of Coal Drug into Revco Drugs, and the merger of Park National Bank into First American Bank, and the sale of Dick Broadcasting Company to Citadel Radio. And principal clients, in addition to Camel, Coal, Park, and Dick mentioned above, included Home Federal Bank, Bush Brothers and Company, H.D. Hackney. And I served on the board of directors of Coal and Revco Drugs and Dick Broadcasting, Cherokee Textile Mills, H.D. Hackney Company, Bush Brothers, and Home Federal, and the latter for 42 years.
all right, now for the information of people younger than we are, Dick Broadcasting is the forerunner of what is now WIVK, and I'm not sure who the owner is now, that radio conglomerate.
James Dick, who founded Dick Broadcasting, WIVK, was a very capable businessman, and he developed that from nothing to outstanding major station. I'll never forget, I used to play tennis with Jim a lot, and was a good friend. And he told me he was going into the radio business. I said, well, Jim, there's no future in that. Television's coming along. That showed you how wrong I was.
Yeah. In those early years of your practice, Bill, what were the kind of work habits of lawyers, and especially young lawyers back in those days? Did you have strict hours, or whenever work needed to be done, or?
I think the latter described it best. You just did what needed to be done.
Yeah.
And if it took long hours or working on weekends or at nights, you did it.
Now, was your office open on Saturdays?
Oh yeah, we were open till noon on Saturday. We did manage to close it at noon.
Okay.
But the practice of law was very different then from the standpoint of office practice. There's no such thing as computers or copying machines. You did everything on a typewriter. There weren't even electric typewriters.
Yeah.
And a good secretary would grind out about 5 or 6 carbon copies on a letter. And hope it didn't make a mistake.
And that was using carbon paper and
Carbon
onion
paper,
skin.
yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it worked, but nothing like what we have today.
Yeah, okay.
The biggest difference in the practice of law that I see today is the number of lawyers. We had about 300 or 400 lawyers in Knoxville. And you knew everybody by first name and all about them. And, the practice was much less formal. It was much more informal and pleasurable.
Yeah. And, of course, Edgerton McAfee, as we refer to it in the bar circles, gradually began to grow into more lawyers. But in those days, a firm with 4 lawyers in it, Edgerton McAfee, was a pretty good sized firm.
That was it for years.
Yeah.
We'd all go eat lunch together. And the way it was.
In your practice with these various clients that you've talked about, did you do the transactional work yourself, or did you have young lawyers doing it?
Primarily, I did it myself.
Okay. I noticed one client that I think you've had that you didn't mention was Plastiline, the sign company.
I didn't mean to leave them out. Harry Brooks started at Plastiline from nothing and built it into a formidable organization. And it was my pleasure to represent him and serve on his board of directors. And he was a good friend.
Now, at the age of 93, you're in the office most days. Are you still doing some work for some of these clients you've had for years?
The ones that are left. Yeah, but I usually can get help from some of the other younger lawyers in the firm.
Yeah, okay.
I had the opportunity to meet some outstanding business leaders, such as Bill Walkup. I mentioned Harry Brooks with Plastiline. Bill Walkup with Home Federal was a real character that was so well known in Knoxville. Wrote a column in the newspaper for Home Federal.
Yeah. While you were spending untold hours, I'm sure, representing your clients, did you find yourself being involved in civic matters in the Knoxville area?
Yes, I did. It was a real opportunity that I had. Start off in 1951, I was in the Wise Men's Club and was elected Young Man of the Year for Knoxville, for the Knoxville JCs. And I was the first president of the Knoxville Sertoma Club, which was organized in 1950. And in 1961, I was elected international president of Sertoma. And one of the things I always remember about that is Harry Truman. We had our Sertoma's 50th anniversary in 1962, and it was in Kansas City, Missouri, which is where the Sertoma headquarters were. And Harry Truman, who lived in nearby Independence, Missouri, came over and was the principal speaker at the banquet. And I had the opportunity to sit next to him at dinner and talk to him, and he was just delightful to talk to. And one thing I'll never forget, Nell, my wife, had gone out and bought a biography of Harry Truman, and we brought it in to have him autograph it. And he said, I'd be glad to autograph it. And he wrote in there, he said, best wishes to Bill and Nell, but this book is full of damn lies. Harry S. Truman. That was typical of him. He was a great president.
And that would be after he had left the presidency,
oh,
then
yeah.
he was retired. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Now, what about some other civic organizations that you've been a part of?
Well, I was on the board of directors of Helen Ross McNabb Foundation, the Joy of Music Youth School Foundation, the Robert Monica Cole Foundation, Philadelphia Prison Ministry, Sons of the American Revolution, and the Historic Tennessee Theater Foundation. That's where we rebuilt the Tennessee Theater. One of the memories that I look back on fondly. I was a member of the University Development Council, President's Club, and the Tennessee Society, Benefactor Society, and the Dabney Society.
All right, now, Bill, you had a busy practice, and how did you work in the time to spend on all of these civic matters back then? You're a practicing lawyer and involved in so many important civic matters in Knoxville. How did you schedule your time?
Well, our law firm, from the very beginning, with Mont Edgerton and Joe McAfee, believed in practicing Christianity, not just talking about it, and that was our opportunity to give back to our fellow man and to try to practice the principles of loving and helping other people.
I believe
and so we just worked it in.
I believe in that connection you were very much involved with your church.
I owe so much to Sequoia Presbyterian Church. I was a charter member, and while there I was a deacon and an elder, and a member of the Stevens ministry, and owe so much to Bill Barron, who was a minister most of the time I was there, who is now retired and is still a very dear friend.
Through your thinking back during your early career in your practice, who were the people, lawyers or judges or whatever, who, in looking back on it, you feel had a significant influence on your life? Can you think of?
Well, of course, Mont Edgerton would be number one. Ray Jenkins was a good friend of Joe McAfee's, and got to know him pretty well. He's a good influence. And there are others I just can't think of.
Yeah, your practice didn't take you into the courtroom to try lawsuits like some people.
Seldom. I went to tax court and U.S. District Court on tax cases and appellate's courts, but that's all.
At the U.S. District Court, did you ever have occasion to practice before Judge Robert Taylor?
Yes, I did. I never forget a tax court case I had down there, and I was able to settle it with the government lawyer who came down here from Washington the night before, and I didn't bother to go down to court when he sounded the docket the next day. And so Judge Taylor sent the marshal, U.S. Marshal, up here to pick me up and bring me down there. And he said, when you're on the docket, you come and tell me you've settled the case. You don't leave it up to anyone else.
He wanted to see you in person, huh?
He was a very opinionated person.
Yeah. Okay.
Lots of stories about him.
Now, you said earlier that you were, as you call it, president of your law firm for years. And was that a pretty significant responsibility?
Well, it was, and finally we were able to, as we got larger, find the need for a business manager. And we hired a full-time business manager, which took the load off of the individual lawyers. But it's still a responsibility.
Okay. Yeah. You say you're at 21 lawyers now?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming that many of these clients that you've named as being clients of Bill Davis are still clients of the law firm?
Oh, yes. They weren't clients of Bill, they were clients of the law firm.
Okay.
I just was the one who was working with them.
Okay. Now, of course, you're retired now, but you still come to the office. When you're not involved at the office here and retired, how do you spend your time?
Well, I used to spend it playing tennis and golf till old age and spinal stenosis got in the way.
Okay. Did you play both tennis and golf basically at the same time?
Yes.
Not at the same time, but you didn't give up one to play another?
No, I liked them both about the same.
Okay. You were a pretty good golfer, weren't you?
Oh, I never got over a 12 handicap, but it was fun.
I'd love to have a 12 handicap, and I'm younger than you are. You mentioned earlier that during your early years, there were maybe 300 lawyers in Knoxville. How did you all get along back in those days, Bill? The lawyers, your fellow lawyers.
I would say it was a pretty close relationship. You knew everybody personally and dealt with them informally, and with a lot of trust and confidence, and didn't have to have everything in writing.
Did you have, I'm sure, with your business practice, that you had occasion to work with lawyers in other cities. How did you find the Knoxville bar, the lawyers in Knoxville, to match up with lawyers in other cities that you might have worked with?
Well, I think other cities got into computers and the advanced techniques ahead of Knoxville, but other than that, it's pretty much the same ball game.
Okay. In your decision as to go into the law and what you would do, what would you say about some of the rewards and advantages of your legal career as opposed to maybe some other career? I guess maybe I'd ask it a different way. What is there that makes you feel good about your career as a lawyer?
Well, number one would be my law firm and the relationship that we've had over the 60-some years I've been in it, and the way that we have been able to work together as a team and a family, and it's just been just loved very dearly, that relationship. And because of the relationship, I've developed some relationship with individual clients that I value very highly. I mentioned Bill Walkup and Harry Brooks, who are both no longer around, but James Dick also has died.
All right, now you mentioned Harry Brooks with Plastiline and James Dick with the
Dick Broadcasting.
Dick Broadcasting, and Bill Walkup with the Home Federal.
Home Federal, right.
Okay. Does your firm still represent Home Federal?
Yes.
Okay. Something just occurred to me that you told me when we met earlier, going back to your days as with the Air Force, teaching people how to fly. I believe you told me about an episode where a plane that you were flying did the wrong thing.
When I was flying troop transport, we would pull gliders and haul paratroopers in a plane called C-46, which is a larger version of the DC-3. That's familiar. But one morning we'd go out on practice flights. One morning, I'll never forget, our co-pilot and I were the only ones in the plane, and took off and looked over, and the left engine was on fire. And we tried to put it out with fire extinguishers, and it didn't go out. And we were, at time, couldn't get back into the field where we were, so we did a belly-up landing in the cornfield that I found, and got out of the plane before it exploded. There's a picture of it right over there beside you. See that little clip on there? That's what's left of that airplane.
Yeah.
But the good Lord took care of me there. He must.
You got out just in time, huh? And where was that? In Texas?
I was actually in Missouri.
Missouri. Okay.
Airfield.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything still in your mind, Bill, that you would still like to accomplish as a lawyer, or do you feel like you've, not that you've quit or anything like that, but do you feel like you've fulfilled your early dream of being a successful lawyer?
Well, yes, I'm very indebted to my law firm to still have the opportunity to come in and have an office and a secretary and contribute where I can to the firm. As I said before, the firm means so much to me, and I appreciate them.
How did you happen to apply for law school at Harvard?
Oh, just because it had a big name, I guess. I don't know. It just, one of the things I did was in the service and deciding what to do, and thought it would be interesting to try. See if I could get admitted, and if they would accept my credits from LSU, and they did.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a couple of final questions here, Bill. This is a personal question, and don't be bashful, but how would you like to be remembered as a lawyer in your career?
I guess as someone who upheld the principles of this law firm of integrity and trying to do the next right thing, and putting clients first. Joe McAfee always used to say, if you take care of your clients, you don't need to worry about anything else. That's number one.
Okay.
Put them first. It's just been a real opportunity I have had to be a member of the firm.
I think I know the answer to this, but I want to put it of record. Thinking back to the Bill Davis of 1945 at the end of World War II, and what your life has been since then, and primarily in your professional life. If you had the opportunity, would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd like to have had an opportunity to do a lot of things over. I think I could do them a lot better.
Well, I think the record will show that you've made an enormous contribution to the legal community of Knoxville and to your many clients. And
I hope so.
we thank you for this interview.
I appreciate it.
Hmm.